If you want an adventure, you could climb a mountain! Or ride dune buggies through the desert! Or you could just head to your neighborhood Zaxby's. Introducing the Smokehouse Cheddar Barbecue and Southwest Chipotle Filet Sandwich Meals. They're brand new and they'll take your taste buds to wild and exciting new places. Both feature our famous hand-breaded chicken, and they're both available for a limited time. Only at your neighborhood Zaxby's. And don't miss Jumanji: The Next Level, only in theaters.
From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? Welcome on into Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan. Corey Clark here as well via technology. We work for Warchant.com. If you're not a member of Warchant.com, this is probably the best time to join during football season. We got a great promo going right now. The promo code is BEATMIAMI, 25% off an annual membership, and we'll throw in 3 bonus months and a $25 e-card. So basically an electronic gift card you can use online to Garnet and Gold. Again, the promo code is BEATMIAMI. Also, Friday going down tomorrow at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, Florida, off Appalachia Parkway. The casino night, the Warchant.com casino night, all proceeds going to the Bar None Foundation, helping out underserved, underprivileged children and their communities. Celebrity bartenders include the aforementioned Bar None, William Floyd, as well as Peter Warwick and Jeff Cameron. Again, all the proceeds going to a good cause. Give us some money. We'll give you funny money. You can play roulette, blackjack, things of that nature, and then get coupons, tickets almost, as Corey metaphorically said the other day. Like you're at Chuck E. Cheese, and you can buy cool stuff for your kids. So come on out. We'll be there. Myself, Corey, Ira, Gene, Michael Langston as well. So ought to be a nice little table setter for the Saturday to come, Miami week. Here we are, Corey, creeping ever so closer on the Renegade Express edition. How are you, friend?
I'm good, buddy. How are you doing?
Doing great, man. Doing great. I'm great. I'm glad you're here. Glad we're here doing the show for the people, because that's pretty much our charge, right? Is to give the people what they want, I think. Is that pretty accurate?
Well, yeah, but we sometimes it's not just what they want, it's what they need to hear.
Okay.
Even if they don't want to hear it, we're going to give it to them straight. That's what we do.
All right. Fair enough. Today's episode is brought to you by the folks at First Commerce Financial, the Renegade Express. Do you know how much you're paying on your mortgage? If you could be paying less, you'd want to know, right? First Commerce Financial will take a look at your current mortgage statement at no cost and no obligation to see if they can provide you with a better option, keeping more money in your pocket. Kirk and his team have already helped over 225 Floridians save money this year alone with their mortgage options and refinance opportunities that are available. You, too, can take advantage of these savings while rates are at record lows. Simply call 248-207-2404 right now. Mention that you heard him on Warchant. You can also visit firstcommercefinancial.com. Not a lot to talk about from Wednesday, I think, Corey, with Harlan and the defense. They're ready. They feel confident, things of that nature. They're playing fast, physical, all that kind of good stuff. So I think we should just go ahead and move on to the questions. Or was there anything that you thought was interesting that was said?
Well, the only thing that was interesting to me was that they talked about not talking to the players as much during practice. In certain elements of practice, kind of getting off the field and letting them kind of communicate by themselves and not having to have a coach out there next to them. It's an interesting little nugget. So I thought that was it. I don't want to talk about it. I just thought that was a little interesting nugget that Barnett said that. And then Stanford Samuels is like, yeah, it helps because we don't have a coach out there in the game. So we got to figure this stuff out for ourselves in real time. And then we make our mistakes in the early part of, the week so that by Saturday we'll have it all figured out. We'll see if that comes to fruition. But, an interesting technique in coaching.
It's all coming together. Otherwise, the only newsy thing from Wednesday, I think, was the fact that Manny Diaz went ahead and announced Jaron Williams as a starting quarterback, which I don't think caught many people by surprise. But if there was any doubt if it would be him or N'Kosi Perry, Diaz goes ahead and calls Williams as starting quarterback. So, true freshman. I think this is now the 6th game this season that Florida State either gets a freshman or a backup quarterback.
So he's a true freshman, not a redshirt?
I think true freshman. Stand by as I tell me to look it up.
Stand by.
See, it's better. It's funnier when you're like, look it up, Aslan. Why don't you look it up? And then I look it up.
Well, you need to have that at your fingertips.
2018 class, so he's a redshirt freshman.
Okay, there you go. So you were wrong. I corrected you. We all win. You're welcome, everyone.
Well, I didn't say true freshman. I said freshman quarterback.
No, you said true freshman.
Did I?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine, buddy.
Right,
it's fine. You did. That's what caught my ear.
Okay, the 6th
and then that's
time,
why I went back and asked.
The 6th time Florida State's had either a freshman or backup quarterback they faced. Maybe
that's
5th
crazy,
or
by the
6th.
way. That's a good little tidbit you had there.
Because with Boise, Louisville backup, NC State backup, Wake Forest backup, so that'll be the 5th one. So I'm sorry, 5.
Well, unless you count Bailey Hockman twice, because he is a freshman too, right?
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thanks for trying to.
There you go. So he's a freshman and a backup. So they hit the daily double with that one.
There we go. Let's hop on the ponies. Let's get to it. Lots of questions. We'll try to get through as many as we can. The remainder will be done tomorrow on the Friday program, as well as the over-unders. We'll give away tasty free Zaxby's as well as T-shirts, which we'll also be giving away at the casino night on Friday. Also, apologies to Bimini Bound. He's like a friend of the program, longtime poster. I think he took offense to the way I handled one of his questions the other week because I kind of glossed over. I thought he was just kind of cracking a quick joke. And he was like, well, if it's so tough to do Renegade Express, why do you guys do it then? I was like, hey, man, I was just trying to
Bimini, calm down, buddy.
Trying to get through some of these questions.
We're friends here.
Yeah, we're going to go to Boca Grande one of these days, slay some snook together. It'll be good times. Marnol55 says, wake up. Okay, you guys won't like this, but I think Willie should take a page out of Jimbo's playbook and go ultra-conservative 2011 Florida game. Run the ball, punt, play field position. Do not turn the ball over. That being said, Blackman does not need to see the field. He's a turnover machine. Your thoughts? 3 question marks.
Well, I would say I would harbor that this defense isn't as good as the 2011 defense. It doesn't have, a lot of future NFL players. I know they were young, but they were future NFL players. So I don't think you can get that conservative and just ride your defense to this win because your defense isn't good enough to be ridden to a win. But I do agree you can't turn the ball over. But you got to go try to score some points. You can't roll to 80 yards of total offense and expect to win this game like they did in 2011 against Florida.
Yeah, you got $1 million offensive coordinator. You really can't tell him, hey, man, just get me to 20. Just get me to 21. Just give me 21 points, please. We'll take care of the rest. I don't think it works out that way. Let me ask you this, Corey. If you were told one of the teams on Saturday is going to score 31 points, what percentage would you say that would be the winning team?
I guess I won't deal in absolutes. 97%.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see either one of these teams getting to 30 unless there's just a bunch of crazy pick sixes and punt returns and block punts and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think you go that conservative. Let him play, man. Let the boy eat. Feed Cam. Let Hornibrook uncork that left arm of his and prove the naysayers wrong. Renegade Express Q's is the next questioner. His question, her question, their question. Who do you guys hate more, Miami or Florida? We get this one a lot this time of year. For me, it's just hands down it's Florida. Just absolutely. It's not even close. I mean, not even close. But then I hang out with Miami folks on this weekend, and I'm like, oh, that's why we don't like these punks either. But for me, it's always be Florida. I cannot foresee a time in my life where I'm like, I gladly was rooting for Miami in the opener this season. No qualms, no guilt, openly rooting for them to beat Florida. I can never see myself rooting for Florida even remotely openly unless it resulted in Florida State sneaking into the playoff. And even then, I'd feel dirty.
As an objective journalist and, as a 44-year-old, I don't hate anybody. I don't hate anyone. I would say that in my formative years, my teenage, early 20s, it was definitely Miami. I think simply because of what they did. Like, Florida State handled Florida pretty well, really, for the whole dynasty run. Florida cost them one national championship. Well, really, Florida didn't. Nebraska did by losing to Texas in the Big 12 championship game. But other than that, Florida didn't in '97. Those were the two, which were back-to-back, actually. But other than that, Spurrier and Florida didn't really bother you a whole lot as a Florida State fan because you beat them pretty regularly. But Miami, they cost you 3 or 4 national championships. So that's a bummer. So that's why I think I always have a little the younger Corey Clark always had a blacker spot in his heart for Miami.
Well, how much of it was your father, the great John Clark, being from South Florida and having to rearing you and telling you these are the people that are the enemy?
Well, that's weird, though, because he grew up in the 50s and 60s, where I don't even know if he knew that Miami had a football. I don't even know if Miami had a football team. I don't think he knew they did, for sure. So really it came on mid-'80s. The Bernie Kosar,
right.
Even post Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly didn't even bother him. It was the Bernie Kosar, Vinny Testaverde, and then on that really got under his skin. But I would say my dad, if you asked my dad, it would definitely be Florida. Because he went to Florida State I think he was at Florida State when Florida finally played in Tallahassee for the first time, because they wouldn't do it. And so, he definitely felt the little brother, step brother. He had that relationship with the University of Florida. But by the time I was old enough to care about college football, Florida State and Florida were on pretty equal footing. So my dad, if you ask my dad that, he would definitely say Florida.
Okay. There's Miami's got their brand.
But my dad is dead.
Right, so he can't.
He passed away.
Okay, I was going to call him up, so we can't do that. That's not
an
option?
No, he passed away a little more than 8 years ago.
Okay. And Miami's got their brand, and it's just so comically over the top that part of me just laughs at it. I'm not as offended by it. Like Florida just comes off of this air of arrogance and just like the subtle, they're making fun of you in the conversation, and they think that you don't realize they're making fun of you, and it's like, no, I realize you're trying to make fun of me, you idiot. Knock it off. Just imagine how absolutely incorrigible and obnoxious Florida fans would be if they had Miami's 5 national championships. That's my thing. Like Miami, they got 5 national titles, and you want to talk about disrespect card. I feel like they could probably pull the disrespect card more than any other team in this state. Florida, again, man, the head start Florida had, and the fact they have nothing in surplus to show over Florida State yet maintain their air of arrogance is just the height of stupidity and obnoxiousness. And again, it remains the time and the reason why I will forever despise them in my objective journalist time and my post-journalist time and my pre-journalist time. So
okay.
The second
they're both hateable.
Exactly.
We can agree on that.
As my friend would like to say, we have this really long acronym when we play when there's certain matchups in our fantasy football league. It's like a 13-letter acronym, but it's short for if this were a real game, I would pray for a bomb to hit the field. So if it's like 2 guys in our league that we don't like, so basically, yeah, Florida and Miami, just always pray for a bomb, just for them to get nicks and knacks. No one gets hurt, really seriously, of course. The second question from Renegade Express Q's is, this is more for Willie's weekly press conference. If they have any plans, could you ask him if there's any plans on actually playing Jordan Travis in a game in garbage time this year? Asking how Travis is progressing or anything like that just leads to his normal answer of he's progressing or whatever that means, which is nothing. Okay, maybe.
I mean, the only time we would ask that, obviously, we're not asking it before this game or a road game. We could ask it before the Alabama State game, saying, hey, if you get up by enough, is there any thought to playing Jordan Travis? That would be the way to ask it. But there hasn't been any time at all in the first 8 weeks of this season where Jordan Travis would have got where it would have made sense to play him. Maybe at the end of the game last week against Syracuse, but no. I think the only time you could foresee them playing Jordan Travis is the Alabama State game.
Bama Nole 457, what is your favorite Florida State-Miami game you ever attended? His, Bama Nole 457, 89, night game. Craziest, loudest I've ever heard Doak. Such an electric atmosphere. It was louder than the Oklahoma game. Man, I miss those days. Go Noles.
Yeah, I would probably say that's mine too. I was 14. They had just they were on their way to winning the national championship. They'd beaten Florida State the year before 31-0. And, during that little dynasty run, when it mattered, when both teams were really good, Florida State didn't beat a lot of really good Miami teams. Not that they were overwhelmed by them. Obviously, they just kept missing field goals or 2-point conversions. But Florida State didn't beat the great Miami teams. Miami beat them barely by inches, but they did. So you didn't get to appreciate a lot of those. So the fact that you won that, I mean, really, you'd say the 89 game, maybe the 93 game, but that wasn't a great Miami team in 93. The 89 Miami team is the only great Miami team that Florida State beat in its history. Meanwhile, Miami beat a great Florida State team in 87, in 88, in 90, in 92, in 91. So it was kind of tilted in one way. So that 89 game, beating them. Toretta had to start because Erickson was hurt. First play was Leroy Butler intercepting Toretta, and then Dexter Carter went around left end on the next play to score the first touchdown. The place went insane. Then there was later in the game, Dexter Carter threw the flag on Bernard Clark's head. Those were glory days. They really were glory days. It was a really charged, pretty cool atmosphere, and that was a great Miami team. That still, of course, went on to win the national championship.
I don't have any good memories. I was in school at the apex of the lost decade.
What about the Muff?
That was the first game I ever covered as a working journalist. I was interning with Gene and Jim Lamar and I were at the Osceola at the time. So, I was in the press box. I wasn't able to really kind of savor it. I had to bite my tongue, and it was such an ugly game. It was that's up there with the 2011 Florida game, just in terms of, thank God we won, but, we're not going to talk about this a lot, like in flourishing terms.
Right.
I made it back for the 2013 game, so I guess I'll put that there. It was a nice competitive game in the first half.
Yeah, but you knew that was coming, right? You knew that was smoke and mirrors with Miami. They really had no chance against that Florida State team.
That's a reason why we came. I think as soon as the Clemson game was over, I was just did Musburger do that call? I feel like Musburger had a great call after one of the games that Florida State won early in 2013. That was just like, oh, the ticket to that game is about to skyrocket through the roof, and I was like, yes, it is. Let's do this. It got everybody on board, and that's one of the last games we had a good sort of mass turnout. My friends and I in Tallahassee. So I'll say 2013.
I'd say that in one more, then we'll go. But the 2014 game too. Okay. It was cool to be there because Miami was up 16-0, and those crazy, goofy fans thought it was happening, thought that the streak was over, thought they were going to knock off Jameis, and then Dalvin breaks their heart. Yeah. Dalvin and Jalen break their heart in the final 5 minutes of that game. That was a cool moment and a cool, really cool atmosphere and a cool game to see.
And Berto drilling like a 51, 52-yarder.
Yeah, well, crazy that Jimbo even went for it at that moment, but he did, and he made it because he used to be awesome. Legitimately, you could say Aguayo is the best college kicker of all time. Yeah. I'll stand by that. The guy was incredible. He missed like 5 kicks in 3 years, and some of them, especially that season, were really pressure-packed kicks.
Absolutely.
Would have been nice if he could have made that tackle against Georgia Tech, though.
Yeah, well, yeah, these things happen. D Wolf 1, as always, love your show, guys. 3 quick hitters. Pick a single all-time memory in this storied rivalry. We've done that. His was Dexter Carter taking it to the house. Doak went berserk. Number 2, crazy to think if things had gone the Noles' way in each instance, which I know is only wishful thinking, but there could be 9 national championship banners up in Doak. But through the years, which is the one year that FSU did not win the national title that they 100% should have? Was it the Miami close calls, Oklahoma national title game, Tennessee national title game, or what other year have I left off?
Yeah, I would say 87 or 92. 87, they went for 2. If he'd have just kicked the extra point, there's like 40 seconds to go. If he kicks the extra point, because they had dominated that game against Miami. They really had. Miami had a couple drives at the end, but Florida State had dominated that game, and I think they would have stayed ranked ahead of Miami, and then they would have gone to the Orange Bowl and won. And they would have won the national championship in 87 with an 11-0-1 record. And then 92, I just think, if they had been in the fast break the whole year, I think Florida State, even as great as that Miami team was, although they got pummeled in the Sugar Bowl by Alabama, I think Florida State wins that game by a couple touchdowns. As it is, they miss on another field goal. I think that 92 team by the end of the year was the best team in the country. I think it would have handled Alabama pretty easily. Maybe not pretty easily, but they would have handled Alabama. They handled that Florida team pretty easily, and then Alabama beat Florida in the closing seconds in the first SEC championship game. So those are the 2 that I think for sure. You could argue about other ones, but I think 92 and 87, you definitely have a national championship, if not for those losses to Miami. I wouldn't say 2000 Oklahoma because those teams had already lost. That team had already lost earlier in the year to Miami. And then the 98 team had lost earlier in the year at NC State. They had kind of lucked into the national championship game to begin with. But the 87 and 92 teams were really, really good.
What would have, Uncle Corey, what would have happened in 97 had Florida State beat Florida?
So Florida State, I think, was 1 or 2. So they were ranked ahead of so Nebraska and Michigan split it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Correct.
So if Florida State would have beaten Florida, they would have played Nebraska in the Orange Bowl because of the bowl tie-ins. Meanwhile, Michigan played whoever they played. Washington State, maybe? Maybe that was Ryan Leaf.
I think so.
So if Florida State beats Nebraska, I think they probably get both votes. I think they win both polls, but they definitely would have won one of the polls. But they would have gotten to play Nebraska for the national championship. But they didn't because they lost to Florida. That's another one. Yeah, they kind of blew that one. I think Florida State was one in the – I think they were ranked ahead of both Nebraska and Michigan, although all three teams were undefeated at the time. So if Florida State wins – they play Nebraska for the Orange Bowl. And I think they would have made that the de facto national championship game because both were undefeated. Both were 1-2 or 1-3 in the polls. And so I think whoever wins that game, Michigan would have been, the odd man out. But it didn't happen, Aslan.
It didn't.
They couldn't cover. They couldn't cover Jacquez Green.
That was the Noah Brindise game, wasn't it?
Yeah, back and forth. Him and Doug Johnson alternating every play.
According to Wikipedia and the AP poll, weeks 12 and 13, Michigan was 1, FSU was 2, Nebraska was 3. In the 4 weeks preceding that, Florida State was number 3 behind either Nebraska or Penn State.
Oh, really? That's in Penn State, huh?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
They're preseason number 1 Penn State that year, apparently. Yeah, Florida midseason was actually ranked number 1 for 3 weeks, it looks like. Crazy.
Yeah, they got upset at LSU back when LSU was terrible.
Rose Bowl was number 1 Michigan, 21. Number 8 Washington State, 16.
Yeah, so I just think if Florida State beats the number 3 team in the country convincingly,
which was in Tennessee that year, Nebraska won 42-17 over Tennessee in the Orange Bowl.
By the way, I know people had a bad deal with computers and hated the BCS, but it was ridiculous that Florida State wasn't in that Orange Bowl anyway. They had the exact same record as Tennessee, and they lost to their one loss was to the exact same team. Florida State lost to Florida literally in the final minute of the game at the Swamp. Tennessee lost at the Swamp by like 30 points. It was like 62-30 or something ridiculous. Like they got hammered. But for some reason, because Florida State lost the last game, Tennessee jumped them, even though they had the same record and the same loss, and Florida State played Florida closer. I hated that. And nobody ever made a big deal about that at all. It was just assumed, well, you lost late, so of course Tennessee's going to jump you. Why? It's the same record, and you lost to the same team. Why don't you look at the totality of the season and say, okay, yeah, Florida State deserves to be ranked ahead of Tennessee, but that's not how they did it back then.
Well, it's still not how they do it in terms of the human polls. I mean, like Georgia's ranked ahead of Oklahoma. Like, because Oklahoma lost. I mean, Georgia lost to a pretty lousy.
But they didn't lose to the same. Yeah, I see what you're saying, but they didn't lose to the same team.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and that's all we had back then was stupid polls.
Yeah.
Now they at least have that wonderful committee that gets things right all the time.
Oh, yeah. The third and last quick hitter from D-Wolf 1, Corey, FSU UGA games, mixed emotions or all dogs for you? Again, awesome job, guys. Go Noles.
I've only dealt with it really once. In 1984, I was a Florida. They have only played twice in my lifetime. They tied in the Citrus Bowl in '84, and I was a Florida State fan at the time. And Kevin Butler attempted like a 70-yard field goal to win the game.
Really?
And it came up like a yard. I mean, it was right on line, and the announcer said that's got enough leg, and it came up like a yard short. Or Florida State would have lost that game, but either way, they tied. And then the Sugar Bowl game. And in that one, I really wasn't. It was like I really didn't care one way or the other. Honestly, I wasn't cheering for either team. That's not God's honest truth. I think I wore a Florida State sweatshirt and a Georgia hat to the game.
Nice.
But I was a graduate of Georgia and had grown up a Florida State fan. It was before I got into this, but that wasn't a great Florida. I didn't feel bad because that was like a magical season for Georgia. And we thought, Rick had turned it around and it was about to be a powerhouse, which didn't quite materialize. And Florida State, it was already a down season. Yeah. Ricks had been suspended. Walker couldn't throw. Anquan was the quarterback. It was like nothing to lose for Florida State. So I really wasn't cheering for either team. I was hoping to see a better game than we got, but, I blame Talman for that.
That was my first ever trip to New Orleans. Was that 2002 Sugar Bowl?
It's a cool city, isn't it?
Love it. Favorite American city. It's my favorite American city. Here we go. Noli Moly, wake up. There's like 10 A's and 10 P's. Do either of you have the Seminole fight song as your morning alarm? How bad is Miami's offense really? Do not.
No, and pretty bad. I think I looked it up. They're 84th in the country in total offense and scoring offense. And keep in mind, they haven't played like juggernaut defenses. And then I think they're like 108th in rushing offense. And they, we saw what they did against Florida with that offensive line. Just couldn't block Florida. Now, Florida's defensive line is better than Florida State's. At least their DNs are. But still, that offensive line isn't very good. Quarterback, I don't think, is very good. I think they got some guys out wide that can play, and their tight end's really good. But overall, their offense is, I'm not going to say inept, but close to inept. It's better than Syracuse. It's somewhere between Syracuse and Louisville.
That's a wide spread, man. Louisville's actually kind of decent. Syracuse is not at all.
Well, there you go. I think that's why I think that's the perfect right in the middle.
Okay. All right, I got you.
I didn't say Syracuse and Clemson.
Okay.
Louisville is probably, 50th in the country in offense or 48th or something. And Syracuse, I would guess, is 120. So right there in the middle, that's where the Canes are.
I was about to say, I don't know if they have anybody special really out wide that, I'm scared of per se. But.
No, the Jeff Thomas kid has made some plays. He's got like 12 or 1,300 yards receiving in his career. Had a touchdown against Florida State last year. The tight end is their guy.
Yeah, Brevin.
He's got like 450 yards receiving. He's just a sophomore too. And I have a feeling that they're going to go to him a lot or try to go to him a lot. That's going to be a tough matchup for Florida State, whether they're playing man or zone.
Yeah, Dan Enos, we're not in Tuscaloosa anymore, champ. People thought that was a big coup, getting him away from Alabama. I think Alabama even tried to keep Dan Enos. And, it's funny how things happen. You leave Nick. You stop suckling from the power teat, and then you wind up with this garbage. So, good job, right. Dan. JDDA Noel. Corey, so happy Brady had a great game. As a mom, that warms my heart. Aslan, you will find that special person. Now to football. When we run the WildCam, should we take Alex or James, take them out, and replace with a skill player?
Yeah, so initially, if you're going to do it in the middle of a drive, like they did at least the first time, they might have done it every time. You don't want to tip off the defense that, there's not a quarterback out there. So the defense doesn't really recognize what's going on until right before you're about to snap it. But yeah, I think after the first couple times you do it, and if you're going to do it extensively, then yeah, you're just wasting a body out there. Because if you're going to really, and we know Cam's not going to have the ball 50 times at quarterback, but if there are going to be some plays where he's actually throwing the ball, then yeah, I think I think you do take Hornibrook out and you put in another wideout or you put in another tight end to just give an extra blocker or to give an extra short passing target, because they're not going to just throw it up to Hornibrook. I would be interested if they had Hornibrook out there and Miami's just like, hey, we're barely covering them. Like, the cornerback starts cheating in or cheating out, where they decide almost not even cover them, or go beat the crap out of them, which is something I've never understood why teams don't do that. I remember when they did it a few times with Chris Thompson. I just remembered that Jimbo did run a little bit of Wildcat with Chris Thompson when Trickett was the quarterback up at Clemson. And he put Trickett out wide, and I'm like, man, why doesn't that 6'1", 195-pound cornerback that's covering Trickett out wide, why doesn't he just go blast him? Like, he's a receiver. You're allowed to do that to receivers. But it never happens. The DBs never do that to the quarterbacks. But yeah, I do think if you're going for the element of surprise, you don't want to tip off that the quarterback's coming out of the game and no quarterback is coming into the game. But once they realize, okay, this is going to be something they're doing for the whole drive or for a majority of the drive, and it's not really impacting their defense at all, like they're not confused, they know it's coming. It's like, three's at quarterback. They expect three to be at quarterback. Then, yeah, I'd say give them another blocker or another weapon.
Yeah, I wonder how much of it is the whole fact that, when you do go Wildcat, it's the numbers game. You've got 10 guys you've got 10 guys blocking now. You're just going to kind of win that. Obviously, like the math part of it. But like if you do just totally neglect to cover Hornibrook, like Cam will throw it to him and he'll probably catch it, and then he'll probably get 20 yards before you catch him. And so you still have to kind of respect that. So now you have you got that whole 10-on-1 thing, but now it's like, now you got 9 guys
But that cornerback, I don't think that cornerback's going to be looking in the backfield the whole time, expecting a run. And as soon as he sees the run, he's charging up to the line. I would think that's what a good defense would be coached to do in that spot. But if that guy was Keith Gavin, well, that cornerback's got to say what you want about Gavin. That cornerback's actually got to take that seriously. He can't just keep his eyes focused on the backfield the whole time.
Yeah,
I would think.
We'll see. I'm sure we'll get an answer soon enough. Rob Clifton. Wake up! Aslan and Corey, great job, fellas. Questions, plural. Bryles talked about replacing Johnson at center. From your article, Corey, it sounds like the staff is unhappy with his play and that he was not aggressive enough. What is the deal? Any update on Anthony Grant at running back? We saw Sheffield in the game. Guessing Grant is a no-go for the season? Lastly, any chance Langston is able to provide details as to the current recruiting status of the team? Thanks for doing such a great job. Nubs up. I'll work backwards. We'll probably have Michael on the program next week after the Miami game because this obviously is the biggest recruiting weekend of the year in terms of visitors. So we'll get a wrap-up of that probably on the show Monday. We don't know what's going on with Anthony Grant. He was given some time off over the summer. He actually left the team. He didn't leave the team, but he left campus or whatever to tend to his business or what have you. But it's been kind of hit or miss since then. So I don't know, a no-go for the season. I mean, shoot, it's week 10 probably, I guess, at this point. But we don't really know exactly what the reason is. And
it's personal. That's what we've been told. It's not an injury.
Yeah. And what's the deal there with Bavion? I don't know, man. Maybe that's why Alec Eberle held on to that job for so long. Maybe there was something that Bavion left to be desired. I'm not watching the center play. I mean, his grade wasn't all that impressive when it came to Pro Football Focus stuff, but it wasn't terrible either. So that was a kind of an eye-opening comment that Kendall Browse made on Tuesday. I never thought that Bavion was holding things down, but now as I say that, I pull up the season-long grades. He is the third lowest graded offensive player overall. The only guys worse than him are Abdul Bello and fan favorite Jawan Williams. So there is that.
Yeah, so I mean that tells you he hasn't been very good. I think we've known that anyway, that he hasn't been very good. And it just seemed like he said they needed to make a change. And he said something like Baselli is exactly what he gave us, exactly what we thought he was going to give us. Which I think means, not a physical presence, but a guy that gets tempo down, gets tops to the line. He likes his tempo. He likes how quick he gets to the ball, how quick he gets everybody set up, and how quick he makes his calls. I guess he likes that more than anything. Neither one of them are great college offensive linemen by any means, but if everything's even or close to even, you go to the guy that runs at your pace. And I guess they've seen enough out of Baselli in practice to think he runs the tempo better.
Hey, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Zaxby's.
At Birch Orthodontics, they know what a difference a beautiful and healthy smile can make in your life.
They take the time to get to know you and perform a thorough exam so that they can make an individualized treatment plan just for you or your child.
They use the latest technology in a warm and comfortable environment. So whether you are interested in traditional metal or clear braces or clear aligners, they can give you the smile you deserve. They know investing in your smile means investing in your future. And at Birch Orthodontics, they are honored to be a part of your smile journey.
Serving Tallahassee for 16 years and supporting the Noles since forever. Check them out at birchorthodontics.com. BURCH orthodontics.com. Welcome back to Wake Up Warchant presented by Zaxby's. Back to the questions. Renegade Express over on the Tribal Council of Warchant.com. NYC Nole. What up, fellas? It's me, NYC Nole. First thing, special thanks to Coach O, whose fiery speech inspired a group of 9-year-old boys to go out and win their fall baseball championship game. That and the other team being disqualified after trouncing us 16-0 for having players over the age of 10 during the trophy ceremony. Champagne tasted just as sweet. It's Miami week. My question, back in the glory days, the defenses ruled the day in this annual matchup and should again, not because they are spectacular, but because Miami's offense is putrid. Do you believe in the defensive staff as a whole and individuals to put our defense in the right situation to have a dominating game? Thank you. Great show as always. That's a good question.
It is, and I would just say no. I haven't seen anything from this defensive staff or these players to think they're going to dominate anyone. I guess you could say they dominated Syracuse, for 3 quarters or 2.5 quarters or whatever it was. But I don't know, man. I know it's Syracuse. That kid's not a good quarterback. And that game, I just this game has a lot more on it, and I haven't seen Florida State with this current staff be able to come up with a game plan that completely shut down anyone they've played. Have you? Maybe I'm misremembering. I just don't remember a time over the last 20 games where that's happened, so I wouldn't expect it to happen on Saturday. They can do well enough to win. They can do good enough to win, but I don't think dominating. I don't know that they have the personnel to be dominating anyway. But no matter the reason, 20 games is a pretty good sample size to expect that they're not going to do it on game 21.
Yeah, they've never pulled the rug out from underneath anybody defensively, so hard to imagine, even with Miami's poor offense, that this is going to be the game that all just kind of all the stars start to align. But who knows? I mean, they did play really well for a half, or at least 2.5 quarters against Miami last year down at the Rock. So who knows? I mean, if one thing I guess you could say is that the team, at least under Taggart, has come out strong against Miami. I know it's just a one-game sample. They came out okay against, they played a good first quarter against Clemson last year. They played a pretty decent first half against Florida last year, so I guess you can maybe say Willie does have a good appreciation for the importance of the rivalry games. But as for the defensive staff as a whole and the individuals to, put them in the right situation to have a dominating game, I think it'd be more self-inflicted stuff. I think, they put the ball on the ground or, just bad reads as opposed to maybe some sort of exotic look that the defense is going to give that they haven't seen before. It's going to be ugly. It'll be compelling, though. It'll be a good game in the fourth quarter, I think. But, yeah, I don't expect shades of, 2013 or, 92, whatever defense is your favorite to be out there. So we'll see, though. Seminole Life. Wake up. Why do you guys think the WildCam was not utilized more until this point? It seemed like everyone knew this would work for us except our coaching staff. I find it odd something so blatantly obvious to everyone took so long and so many losses to implement. Any chance you guys could ask Willie or Browse this? Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's see how much it's used. We've written a lot about it already. Let's see how much it's used on Saturday and how effective it is. And if it's wildly successful again, then yeah, that definitely deserves to be asked. Like, what took this long? Why didn't you do this at all last year? I think Browse has more of a history with it. Going back to that bowl game against North Carolina where they ran for like 600 yards with a wide receiver playing quarterback. So I think he coaches it better. He and Clements understand it better than Walt Bell and Greg Fry would have last year. But yeah, they could not run the ball at all last year at all mainly because their offensive line was a disaster, but also they had a quarterback that was not a running threat. And it's hard to run RPOs. It's hard to run option read, zone read plays when only one of the guys is actually going to keep the ball and run with it. It's not really an option when you know who's getting it every time when they have that mesh point. 12 isn't pulling it out and running with it. Well, with Akers, you don't know if it's going to be 3 or 4. So it does make it harder to defend. And like you said, it gives an extra blocker. He's allowed to see it better because he's getting the snap and going. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know why Jimbo didn't do it in 17 when that offense couldn't run either and struggled a lot behind a woeful offensive line. And I don't know why Taggart, it took him till game 19 to really make it a part of his offense. I don't know if it was because of the Virginia Tech game where he tried it a couple of times and in weird situations and it didn't work out well. For them to say, no, we're not going to do that anymore. Who knows?
Jimbo was on Zillow in 2017 looking for real estate. So, I mean, that's why he wasn't.
No, that's true. That's a good point.
How about this, though? I mean, if it's not as effective as it was against Syracuse, I mean, does the question then become, why did you use it against Syracuse? Why didn't you save it for Miami? Or will it just be that, hey, this probably wouldn't have worked out even if Miami didn't know it was coming?
Yeah, no, I think that would be a reasonable question to ask, but that's assuming that Miami wouldn't have been able to adjust to it. Like, I think maybe it would have worked like if you had not shown it at all, and then you did it the first couple plays against Miami, and you caught them off guard a little bit. But after that, they're gonna. I mean, those guys get paid a lot of money. Those are good players over there. That's a good defense. They're going to adjust to the concept of a running quarterback. Whether it's Cam Akers or anyone else, they'll adjust. So it's just, I don't know that you could have just sprung it on them and, they just would have had no answers. I mean, it might have been a drive even where it was successful. But I just think the kid is a unique talent. And there's some things that you just can't, even if you know it's coming, you might not be able to stop. If he's one-on-one with a linebacker, odds are Cam Akers is going to beat that guy. And it doesn't matter how much you rep it. I don't know that you can rep it and practice with scout team guys to emulate Cam Akers. That dude's a different animal, man. That guy's a different dude to try to tackle. And so, yeah, well, but saying all that, we'll see how they do with it. I think personally, I think if it doesn't work, I think it's just because Miami has a really good defense and you can't block them well. And you tried something different because you knew just the standard snap the ball to Hornibrook. He gives a fake, read look to the linebackers to try to hold him up, but it doesn't, they're coming after Cam. If you do the traditional running game out of this offense with this offensive line against that defense, I think you're going to struggle. So, I don't think I even answered the question.
Yeah, I think you did.
All right.
Yeah, we'll ask. We'll see. Well, depending on how it goes, I'm sure it'll probably pop up in the post game. If not, maybe on Monday we can see what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, if they do it 45 times, which I think is on the table, I'm not predicting that. I'm not saying that's going to happen. It's what I would do. But if they do it like literally dozens of times, 2 or 3 dozen times, and it gets them 150 or 200 yards and a couple of touchdowns, yeah, man, that's definitely within our rights to say, what? Obviously, this works really well, and Miami even knew it was coming. Why didn't you do this before? What held you back last year? I think that's a fair question.
I mean, yeah, it would have been nice to run that against Virginia Tech. It would have been nice to maybe run it against, I don't know.
It would have been nice to run it against Miami last year.
Yeah.
Especially in the second half, you couldn't move the ball at all. Maybe having that kid at quarterback instead of the other kid throwing the ball to or turning it over at his 22 possessions in a row, you're just snapping it to 3.
Primetime 92. Hey, guys, I have always considered Miami a bigger rival than Florida, but I may be a little biased. I lived in Miami for a brief amount of time and could not stand the arrogance and materialistic nature of the city. Everyone there is the greatest. Would love nothing more than to send them on that long drive back with an L. I guess my question is, Corey, Aslan, and Ira are walking into the game and are confronted by a large group of loud Miami fans, shirtless, face paint, chains and all. An argument breaks out. Now it's a rumble. What is the plan? Does Corey get on Aslan's shoulders to form a superhuman? Does Ira go for the turnover U and use it as a ninja star? Or maybe a nipple twister on the biggest guy and you all run as fast as you can? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I feel like we probably avoid that at all costs. But if it has to go down, I think all 3 of us would fight dirty.
Yeah.
I would look for something to throw, especially if we're outnumbered. I'm looking for something on the ground or even another person beside me and trying to throw or hoist them into the crowd, into the Miami fans. Maybe I'll rip the chain off their neck and whip them with it. There's a lot of ways it could go, but I'm not going to just sit there and put my dukes up and just start bouncing back and forth and flipping jabs at them because I'm going to get my butt kicked. Unless these guys are small, I can't work like that. I know my limitations. I'm like 5'8", 170 pounds. I got to fight dirty. Ira's a little bigger. I feel like he could at least run at some guys and take them out for us. And then you're like in shape. You need to come correct and actually do some butt whipping.
I think I'd go like Seagal. Like I would throw my tripod at one of them and they would catch it, and then I'd take my backpack off and I would swing it and hit another person with it, and then I would come and see which one of you or you or I needed help, and then try to team up on them and then just kind of peel off and go to the next layer, the next level. We do fine.
That is true too. We all have bags that are heavy that we could throw at them, and you have a tripod. So maybe we do have the advantage. Yeah, and you also carry that mace, don't you?
Yep. Bear spray, actually. It's bear spray from Montana.
Good. Fair.
Noles North, wake up! Corey and Aslan. Corey, you single-handedly reinvigorated my enthusiasm as you nailed the assessment of what matters against the Orange. Thanks for the reminder that Cam Akers and the rest of the team deserve the support of all fans. You're welcome for my posing the question that led to your outstanding article chronicling number 3's greatness. Glad to be a part of your creative process. Contrary to the middle of 2017, excluding...
Thank you for that. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Contrary to the middle of 2017, excluding Odell's reign, FYI, Jimbo does not get credit for that Florida win, so he is 13-2 versus in-state rivals. Why?
Well, no, he does.
Yeah, man,
Jimbo was the coach on that in that game.
He was the head coach. Sorry.
He left 2 days later.
Yeah.
After blaming the media for all the rumors about him going to Texas A&M.
Yeah, huh? What, huh? Ira? What? Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Contrary to the middle of 2017 and the end of 18, this team has heart. They play hard. They seem to have bought in, so we should not forget the rest of the team. To keep the theme for 2019 going, what matters this week? More Cam? More Cam? More Cam? My renewed enthusiasm looks beyond the overall product. Rather, I am appreciating the parts and obvious improvements. So what else should we consider? Do we see a win leading to a 4-game win streak heading into Florida? You hit on this in the Wednesday episode. I expect to be at the Boston College game. Whoever's coming up to Boston, it would be great to meet if it can be coordinated. Keep up the 5-star effort. I think it would actually be 5-star Schofel, most likely. So it would be up there in Boston.
You and I aren't going, so it's definitely him.
Yeah. So, what matters going forward? You got to beat Miami. You got to recruit well somehow. Those are the things, I guess, keep it competitive against Florida, make it to a bowl, win said bowl. That all matters.
I don't think you have to win said bowl. It'd be nice. Man, I think you got to beat Miami. You got to beat Miami or nobody cares about any improvement you made this year. None. And we all agree. Anybody watching this team knows that it's better than it was last year just because we have eyesight. We can't just be so locked into. I mean, I hate to parrot the guy, but you can't be so results oriented that you can't admit that the team is better than it was last year. At the same time, if you end up going 5-7 again, the process gets thrown out the window. Like, great, man, they're a little bit better than they were last year, but is that enough to warrant 2020 and 2021 and trotting this same coaching staff out there? Are they improving this product enough? Because this is Florida State. I mean, I do, man. That's why I think I think they can. I think they can beat Miami. They should beat Miami. And then I think that could start a 4-game winning streak. And they could finish the season, if they win the bowl game, having won 6 of their last 7 games, which is a nice thing going into next season. You do see some progress because I know I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, but results will matter to recruits. Because they don't watch every second of every game, I wouldn't imagine. They do care about, like, we see it. We see that there's improvement. It's marginal. It's a few degrees, but it's better than it was last year. You're not leading the nation in penalties right now. You don't have the worst offense in the Power 5. You are running the ball. You are making changes in the special teams. You are finding different ways to get your playmakers the ball. All this stuff is better. You have a better coaching staff. You got to make some changes on defense probably, no matter what happens the next 4 games. But either way, you can sell an improved product. Well, Florida, but you have to have the results to back it up. You can't just say, like we've said, man, you're only 4 plays away from being at 7-1 right now. Well, you're not. Kids don't want to hear that. They want to see results, and they want to see results that actually matter. So again, I know I talked out of both sides of my mouth, but that's why this game is so important. Yes, we understand that the team is a little bit better than it was last year. There is improvement. But if you lose to Miami, it doesn't matter. I truly believe that. I hate it. I hate being so reactionary. I hate putting a whole season into one game, the progress of a program into one game. But that's it, man. You can't tell me how much you're improving and how much better you are if you keep losing games. So win this one.
Well, see, for me, a lot of it, too, is the fact that what is better is the offense, and it's because of Kendall Browse and Willie largely removing himself from that equation. Like, if he fired Walt Bell and was just like, man, I'm going to do everything. And if this offense looked the way they do now, and it was like, this is all Willie, and you're like, well, look at that, man. Like, he's gone ahead and averaged 100 more yards a game, and he's made those improvements. Like, all right, man, I can believe in this guy. And, his acumen, not necessarily his ability to, identify, which anybody who watches football knows is probably one of the top 10 offensive coordinators in the nation, and give him $1 million to come to Tallahassee, Florida to coach at one of the better programs in the nation. So the credit and the improvements largely are things that are kind of out of Willie's sphere. So that's kind of the difficult thing in looking positively to the improvements if it doesn't wind up with good results. And like the bowl game, I realize it's not all that important, but like if they would have gone 5, they obviously went 5-7 last year. Had they gone 5-7 with a win over Florida, like end of year beating your rival, it gives you some headwind going into the offseason. I think if you lose to Florida, and I don't think it'll be all that competitive of a game, and you lose your bowl game, and like you're 6-7, it's or maybe you'd be 6-7
or 7-6,
maybe 7-6. Yeah, again, it's one of those other things that Willie needs all the positive PR momentum that he can have, and like losing a meaningless bowl game is just. There's more for him to lose than there is to gain in that, I feel like. So, like, winning it, no one's going to be like, all right, we're doing great, awesome. But if you lose that, it's just another indictment of you had all this time to plan, et cetera, et cetera. Although, who knows? I mean, you probably won't have Cam. You probably won't have Marvin in that game. So it'll probably be hard to really fully sort of, put blame or whatever on anybody because they won't have a full staff probably or a full roster because of the draft and things of that nature.
Sure.
Let's take like 2 or 3 more here.
All right.
Noel Holla, morning, fellas. Give me your take on this conspiracy theory. I feel like the kid from Houston, D'Eriq King, has been locked up to play for us next year. Letting Alex Hornibrook play quarterback is our best choice, and I feel like the coaches have known that all along. I think they were scared to sit Blackman in fear he would transfer. We will have King, Sims, and Travis next year as our trio of quarterbacks. Therefore, the coaches' fears of Blackman transferring are nil. Thoughts?
So the thought being they don't want to lose Blackman for next year if there's nobody coming in but Sims. But I see what he's saying. But since they'll have another no, I don't know that I buy that necessarily. I do think there's certainly a shot that kid's going somewhere. It's just bizarre. It's beyond bizarre that you just I know what they said, but to just sit out in the middle of a season and say, I want to wait until next year when we're going to be better. That's just bizarre. I don't even know what to say. It's just patently absurd. So I do think I would be really surprised if he stays there. But that said, when you look at that situation, the kid at Auburn on Wednesday just decided to up and leave, right? He's in the portal, right?
Joey Gatewood. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's what's his name last year? Clemson did it. The quarterback, Bailey Hockman did it.
Kelly Bryant.
Quarterbacks all the time just bounce in the middle of a season. So why didn't this kid just put his name in the portal? Like, why is he being different than every other quarterback that decides to transfer? It is a really weird situation, right?
Absolutely. It's completely bizarre. Like this
So maybe there is some truth to, like, I want to wait till we're really good next year and I'm going to sit. I mean, it's bizarre to me, but maybe that is the truth, that he wants to put all his eggs into that basket with the guys he's played with and make sure that 2020 is special because 2019 wasn't going to be. It's a weird way to handle a program. It's a weird way to be a teammate, but whatever, it's a new day. But that said, I don't think they care. My personal opinion, this is just my opinion, I don't think they care if James Blackman is on this team next year or not. Not because they have any ill will towards the kid, but because they don't think he's good enough to be their starting quarterback.
Yeah, it's over, man, sadly.
I think if worse comes to worse, your 2 guys next year, Travis and Sims.
Yeah.
And if Blackman wants to enter the portal, go ahead and enter the portal. I think that's where they are. Whether D'Eriq King comes here or not, I think that's where they are, is that they expect that it would be crazy to me anyway, Blackman's going to stay and go in another quarterback competition where he will perhaps lose it again. It'd be awesome if he did. It's great to see loyalty. It would be really kind of refreshing. And the kid is a Seminole, but I don't think many Florida State fans, I just don't think many expect him to be here next year if he's not going to be the starter, and I don't think many of us expect him to be a starter next year.
Next question, Sabaxley 1212. It's Miami week. Wake up. After the Wake Forest game, my outlook towards this team became very apathetic, and then I read Corey's article on the greatness of Cam Akers. Thank you, Corey. You put things into perspective, reminding us that Cam is one of the greats to wear the garnet and gold. Corey, what's the update on Brady's love life? Did he ask the girl out? As a father of 3 daughters, I also have a son, dating scares me to death. But my youngest daughter is in 8th grade. She's a beauty named Mary. Since you slammed on her name last week, you should give her a shout out. Or maybe, as their parents, we could arrange a marriage between her and Brady so she could be married to the heir of the Clark fortune. Seriously, thanks, guys, for all you do and the effort you put into keeping things in perspective. Go Noles, beat Miami.
Well, obviously, you probably need to send me a picture of what Mary looks like, and I'll show it to Brady, and then we'll go from there. Maybe she's on TikTok. Brady can follow her on TikTok, because heaven knows that's what he does with half his day now, is that godforsaken website. I don't think I did ask, and he says he hasn't, but that was like a week and a half ago. I hadn't asked since. So I will ask if he ever, what'd he say? If he has the balls to do it?
Yeah.
If he actually had the balls to ask. I might have done a good job of talking him out of it. I'm just trying to delay the inevitable there as much as I can. Did we talk bad about the name Mary?
Well, no, you're just like, it'd be weird if Cam, or not Cam, I'm seeing Cam on my screen. You were just saying it'd be weird if, my son is ended up kissing a girl, hey, Mary, come over here, let's go hang out. And then you're like, you caught yourself like, but no one, her name obviously wouldn't be Mary. Nobody calls their daughter Mary anymore.
That's right. It's Alexa or Bailey and names like that.
Madison, Mackenzie.
Yeah. Those names. Like Ella. Ella's a very, very popular name.
So, like, is Jennifer going to be the Dolores of 2030, or is Tiffany going to become Ethel in 2040? Like, wow, like what were people thinking naming their daughters Tiffany? Kind of the way people think of like the name Ethel now or Doris.
Yeah, you don't hear a lot of Jennifers anymore, do you?
What happened? I love Jennifers. I love Jennifers and Tiffany's.
Yeah, and you can Tiffany's a little weird because Jessica. Are there Jessicas still?
Jessicas are gone.
I think with Jennifer, you can call her Jen. That's a cool little nickname. But Tiffany, what do you call her? Tiff?
Yeah, I guess.
That's always a tough one. So I get that. I get that. But yeah, his love life still hasn't really taken off. Thank heavens. At least that he's not telling me. And maybe somebody that listens to this can give me some advice, because he desperately wants a cell phone. Desperately. All his friends have a cell phone. I don't understand why a sixth grader needs a cell phone. But then he sees all his friends have cell phones.
That's why.
And well, yeah, but like, what are they doing? Like, and I'm like, man, I don't need you texting at all hours of the night. And who knows what you're going to text? And he goes, well, you can take my phone when I go to bed. And I'm like, yeah, but during the day, I don't need you getting in trouble for having your cell phone out at school. And we have a pretty set routine. Like, it's not like I need you. And if there is an emergency, you're in a school building with hundreds of adults, or at least 100 adults, probably not hundreds, but you could go, if there's an emergency, you can figure out a way to get in contact with us. You don't really need and then I pick you up after school, or you ride the bus home to your mom. So you don't need the cell phone for communication,
Brady?
like emergency contacts. So you need it to communicate with your friends.
Lord Brady Clark takes the bus?
From his mom's house, yes.
Okay.
From my house, I take him to school and pick him up. But when he's staying with his mom, yeah, man, Brady, I give credit to the kid. Like, he sets an alarm. He's in the 6th grade. This actually started last year. His mom and his stepdad are sometimes out of the house before he gets up. So Brady has an alarm clock in his room that he sets for 7:30 every day. He gets up, he makes himself breakfast, he puts on his clothes, and he catches the bus.
That's awesome, man.
That's pretty adult, right?
That's what I did, but that was in the 90s. This is crazy.
Yeah, but when you were in the 5th and 6th grade, you did?
Yeah, I set an alarm in 6th grade for sure. 5th grade, maybe not. 5th grade, probably still had mom helping out. Probably still was getting dressed by mom, but I think middle school I started dressing myself. And
yeah, so he does some things that are responsible. But yeah, and I know we got to wrap it up. But folks, listening to this, if you want to leave a question next week, just tell me what your advice would be for cell phones with middle schoolers, because it really does kind of freak me out that he's going to be texting girls at all hours, and heaven knows what they're going to say. Does he really need one? Yeah. Anyway, that's my question out to you guys.
See, man, I want to adopt a kid just so I can parent shame people, but I can't parent shame because I don't have kids. But maybe I'll.
Well, if you're going to adopt a kid, you need to go the blindside route.
Okay.
And go scout the local parks and playgrounds and find yourself somebody that's going to make us all a lot of money one day.
Like, don't you folks, like in your parent circles, don't you realize the precedent you're going to set for your friends? Like, hey, like Rebecca, if we get Austin a phone, that means that Brady's going to want a phone, and then Corey's going to be like, what the hell? Why did you guys get him a phone? Or we're not all in this in a team. It takes a village to raise a kid, right? Like, do we not think about this? I mean, come on, everybody.
Apparently
step
not.
up. Step
Apparently
up.
not.
Oh, this is a good one, kind of. What do you think,
Okay,
Corey?
is this the last one?
Yes, last one.
Okay.
It's from Maxwell Gibbs. If it wasn't from anybody, if it was from anybody else, I would say skip it. But it's Maxwell Gibbs.
Right. Understood.
Give me 3 reasons why I should feel confident FSU will beat Miami. This reminds me of 2007, where FSU had better players all around, but coaching lost the game in the second half. The offense did look nice on Saturday. Then again, that's what it looks like when you've got a better quarterback and Willie not meddling. Alex Hornibrook would not have lost to Boise, Virginia, nor Wake Forest. Okay, so you got your shots in, Maxwell. Okay, duly noted. 3 reasons, confidence. Florida State beats Miami. You have Cam Akers. I think Cam Akers is the best football player on the field, probably.
Yeah.
One.
Okay.
2.
What about Hornibrook owning Miami?
That's true. Yeah. He's got that Badger blood in him still. He knows what it's like to beat. But they've all been down there, though. They've all been down in South Florida. Maybe he's a tropical climate guy. It's going to be beautiful on Saturday, apparently. It's going to feel like
it's going to be
Big Ten
great,
weather. Big Ten weather. I trust Kendall outfoxing their defensive coordinator more than I trust Dan Enos outfoxing Harlan and Jim. Barely, but still, that's a leg up. And I think Ricky, I trust Ricky to hit like a 45-yarder more than I would Miami's revolving door of nonsense.
Oh, that's a good point. As much as everybody really is low and down on Florida State's kicking situation, it's still, knock on wood, it still appears to be in better shape than Miami's, which has just been a train wreck all season. But yeah, man, I think my number one, my biggest reason is Miami's not very good, and they're a not very good team that just won a nice game on the road. I would be surprised. That's a coin toss game. I'd be surprised if they won another coin toss. They accomplished the goal at Pittsburgh. I don't expect them to play, and not that they even played that well, but I don't expect them to win 2 straight games on the road against at least what you'd call decent teams, because they're not very good. They lost to Georgia Tech. They barely beat Central Michigan. This is not a good football team. Florida State isn't either, but Florida State's at home, and like Aslan said, Florida State has the best player on the field.
Boom. Hey, Corey, good show. Let's do it again tomorrow.
I can't wait, buddy. I can't wait.
Awesome. Check us out, warchant.com. That's a wrap on Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's. Have a great one, everybody. We'll talk to you on Friday.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.